Our next image bearer tonight is Amy Miles. She is a daughter, sister, wife, mother, and occupational therapist. She lives in Oregon. She loves her family, the outdoors, and animals. She works in schools specializing in pediatrics. Amy survived a therapeutic abortion in 1980. She connected with the Abortion Survivors Network about a year and a half ago and is entirely grateful for their support and guidance in her journey to share her story with others to be a voice for life. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here with these beautiful lives and to be able to share with you. Have you ever wondered why life is so hard? I've wondered that. In fact, I've spent many of my years trying to make sense of it all. But on one rainy Monday morning, on my day off, my mom showed up at my doorstep with 2 Starbucks drinks in hand. This is something she never did. That was the day that I learned the answer to my big why. One thing that always made me ask why was that I was born early. So early, in fact, that I had a brain injury at birth. And what my parents always told me was that the blood vessels were just so tiny that some of them broke. There was a mark on my head, and I say mark now, but when I was a baby and all the way up to age 2, it was more like a goose egg. I think I wore a lot of bonnets. But after a lot of specialist visits and doctor visits, I was diagnosed with something called cerebral palsy. For me, what that means is I wear hearing aids. Do you guys know anybody who wears hearing aids? Well, if you don't, now you do. If you ask anybody in my family what my favorite word is, they would say, "What?" I say it many times a day and in many different phrases. Along with my hearing aids, my leg muscles are tight and they don't work quite right. So when I was learning to walk and run and ride my bike, it was pretty hard. But you can imagine I had a lot of questions along the way. Why? Another thing that always made me ask why is that my parents aren't my biological parents. I was adopted. Do you guys know anybody who's been adopted? Yeah, well, if you don't, now you do. My parents are the greatest, and I'm so thankful for them. I think the thing that I'm most thankful for is that they taught me about Jesus and his love for each and every one of us. The thing that I can really cling on to about Jesus is he loves us even when we don't feel like we look or act or would just look or act quite right. He just loves us. We're his greatest craftsmanship. How many of you guys have ever been teased or bullied in school? I was. And sometimes I would hear the awful things that kids would say, like, "Oh no, we don't want her on our team, she'll slow us down." School was hard, learning was hard, making friends was hard, especially when I had these giant hearing aids and crooked legs, felt like I stood out. And I had a seemingly long walk home from the bus stop, often in the rain. Thank you, Oregon. I had a lot of time to just ask God, why? But on that rainy Monday when my mom showed up at my doorstep with Starbucks, that was the day that I learned the answer to the question that I've always had lurking in the back of my mind. Why have I had all of these challenges? And as I sat there sipping my hazelnut latte, my mom shared with me that my birth mother was a college student who was facing an unplanned pregnancy. I don't know what people were telling her at that time or if she felt like she had any support at all. But she had come to the conclusion that the answer to her problem was to get an abortion. An abortion is defined as the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy. So in other words, that's a baby boy or girl that doesn't get a chance at life. But guess what? I was that baby, and I survived. It's a miracle, really, and as I stood there just shocked, holding my cup, my mom shared with me that an abortion procedure was started, and on June 6th at 12:13 a.m., I was born. I don't know if I will ever know the details of what happened on that day, but I choose to believe that the hand of God was reaching out to protect me. My birth mother may not have realized it, but even as the size of a tiny bean, I had my own DNA that would determine what my hair color would be, what my eye color would be. I was whole and separate from her. I wasn't her. I was me. I'm so thankful that I survived that day. And I think the most awesome thing is that I've learned the answer to my big question, and that is God has a plan and a purpose for me. Did you know that he has a plan and a purpose for every one of us? He knew exactly what was going to happen in my life. He knew what family I would go to, a husband and a wife that desperately wanted their own child but couldn't. He knew that growing up was going to be hard for me, but he also gave me a heart full of compassion for people with different abilities. And that's what I do now for my job. I work with kids and I love it. He gave me an opportunity to share with others that life has value at every stage. And as I go through my life, even now, I feel like he's teaching me about love and forgiveness more than ever before. I haven't had a chance to meet my birth mother yet, but I sure hope I get to someday so I can tell her that I forgive her. I recently found her and I wrote her a letter. And one of the things I asked her was, "Do you have a dimple when you smile? Because my kids and I do." Well, she wrote me back, and at the end of her letter, she put, "P.S. I do have a dimple when I smile." I wish that she wasn't faced with the choice that she made back then. My heart goes out to anybody who's experienced an abortion. I wish that abortion wasn't even a thing. I wish that there would have been someone telling her that there were other options, options that give life and not take it away. I don't know what it was like to have to go through that choice, but I imagine that she's had a hard time ever since. I'd like to encourage you tonight that if you or someone you know is ever facing an unplanned pregnancy, that there is hope. If you are asking God why, that he has a plan and a purpose for you and your baby. Thank you.